Welcome to Wellbeing Wednesdays with Arvinda Narula on BW Wellbeing World. My guest today is Dr. Bhavna Sharma, who is the India Head for Nutrition Science Division at the ITC Limited. Dr. Bhavna Sharma is the PhD scholar in food and nutrition and has over a decade of experience in leading nutrition science platforms and supporting brands to lead in superior product development. Today, we are going to be speaking to Dr. Bhavna about the importance of fiber foods for digestive health. So Dr. Bhavna, welcome to BW Wellbeing World. Let me begin with the first question, which is related to something that you are really passionate about, which is dietary fibers. Now, what role does fiber play in promoting good digestive health, and how can individuals with poor digestive health benefit from including fiber in their foods?
Okay, thanks. Very excited to be here and sharing my thoughts on something on a topic which is very, very close to my heart, nutrition, and in that as a subset of digestive health. I think the question that you asked actually has two aspects. One is the word that you yourself use, digestive health, right? And the second is the fiber. Now, a lot of people actually just imagine digestive health as the start and the stop point to being the stomach, and that's it, right? It actually is a whole connective thing which starts from your mouth, has your stomach, has your small intestine, has your large intestine. It also needs three other very, very important organs, which is your gallbladder, pancreas, and your liver, to be healthy, for it to enable a happy and a healthy working of the digestive system, right? So this is a complex thing. And the reason I'm sharing this is because this is exactly the reason why a lot of people, unfortunately, despite trying many things, right, have a very poor digestive health, right? And hence, it is a very, very important area for it to be considered like that. The second thing comes out to be the fiber, which we are talking about, right? Fiber itself is quite complex. See, the fact about the fiber is that, what is fiber? See, if you put it very simply, dietary fiber is that component of a plant which is edible. It is that part of the carbohydrate which is generally resistant to digestion, right? And that's why it enables a certain functions because of its own. There are two types of it at a normal level when we speak about it. There's a soluble fiber, there's an insoluble fiber. The difference between the two, as the name suggests, is that the soluble fiber is the one which basically is able to absorb water and forms a gel-like substance, right? So it has its own viscosity and stuff. Whereas the insoluble fiber is basically the one which is not soluble in water, right? And it is then takes a longer period of time for it to also ferment. And thereby, both of them have a very specific and different functionalities. And I think a lot of people probably do not realize that when they're consuming it, because for them, it's just the total dietary fiber or the dietary fiber or the fiber. The reason I'm saying three different things is because when you pick up a pack or read any article, a lot of people would think that they're very different. So just to clarify, TDF, total dietary fiber, equals to dietary fiber equals to fiber. And all three, you can interchange and use them as the word. And all of them would include both soluble plus insoluble component, unless otherwise specified, for example, right? Now, in the insoluble one, for example, the examples that we take are the wheat, the brands, right? The skins of the fruits and vegetables. And their biggest function is that they help in management of stool. So they add bulk to the food, they help in improved satiety, and thereby a lot of people actually consume them in different formats so that they have a regular bowel movement. So that's a more regular, understandable way to see that. Soluble fiber, on the other hand, which can come from your seeds like flax and chia, it can come from the pectins of the fruit. It also comes from oats, like the beta glucans of those. Soluble fiber is generally the one which has a more specific role. It helps in management of glucose spikes, right? It helps in management of LDL cholesterol. It also helps in promoting satiety, and thereby, it also enables weight loss for the people who are trying to do weight management. So thereby, these are the two bigger aspects of fiber. And everybody, unless they have a particular issue, should try to have both of them in a specified amount, as part of their diversified, balanced diet every day.
And Dr. Bhavna, you mentioned about soluble fibers as well as the other fibers. Are there more kinds of fibers that you mentioned? And what exactly is the definition of fiber? Because I remember you and I were talking about that. The fiber, the definition of fiber, what globally is there could be very different from what we understand in India.
Correct. So I think, I think you're right. See, like I said, the classical definition is dietary fiber, which is the edible part of a plant, and then it gets structured basis its own chemical structures and stuff like that. And then I think everybody does agree on the qualitative and the quantitative definitions of it being soluble and insoluble. And of course, there is another one, which is the prebiotic fibers, right? These are those fibers which could be coming from soluble fibers, but they're now taking a life of their own. And these are those fibers like you have inulin, FOS, GOS, fructooligosaccharides, right? They are the ones which actually enable the growth of the good bacteria, right? So they are the ones which are also very, very critical to be taken up as a part of a diet. So these are the kind of fibers, and as per the definition goes, let me put it in a more consumer-friendly manner, right? So one is the definition that we use as a technical person or as a scientist to say that this is what fibers are. We know their characteristics. This is soluble. This is insoluble. Soluble one, if it needs to get converted or become a part of any kind of a recipe, whether it's a medicine, whether it's food, nutraceutical, or whatever it is, you realize that you need a particular amount and a type of a fiber, which should come either through natural sources, like you get beta glucan from oats, or you get your brands from your multigrains and your other flours, which are organically and naturally good for you, or they get added to the recipe, and they are for a particular function. In a quantitative manner, let's talk about our own country. Now, anybody who wants to talk about fiber or talks about the fact that it needs to have goodness of fiber to be communicated in any form of communication, technically, that product should have at least 3 grams of fiber per 100 grams of the product. Any value below that does not qualify any product, to call itself as having a goodness of fiber. That fiber is a total fiber. It could be a mix of soluble, insoluble. It's analyzed as total dietary fiber and communicated like that. And if you want to talk about the goodness or the rich in, you need to have at least 6 grams of dietary fiber per 100 grams of the product. So that's how consumers can also read it on the pack or the information which is given to them, which is credible. And of course, all these fibers, which can come from different sources, like they can come from multigrain, they can come from a whole grain, they can come from fruits and vegetables, would also eventually have the specific benefits associated to them. So I think it'll be critical, and I always encourage people to read the labels, read the science, and then try, if to whatever their best knowledge, and maybe also talk to the doctors and the nutritionist to say that, for their particular condition, what is the kind of fiber that they should have, right? Because then otherwise you'll just defeat the purpose of it. So that's very critical to understand what they are and what is your situation, what's your need, right? If you want to do a management of constipation, then you should definitely skew more towards insoluble fibers, right? If you want to manage your blood glucose levels, then maybe you should skew more towards soluble fibers. If you just want to enable and you've noticed disturbance in your gut, which could be short term due to many things, even when you have antibiotics, you would notice your doctors would always give you some kind of a probiotic, capsule with it. So you can always manage it naturally by having prebiotic fibers, which can come from sources. So I think a little bit of knowledge on this will go a long way for people to help themselves.
Dr. Bhavna, what you spoke of is a very informative and, but at the same time, for a layman, when we talk about balanced diet, etc., what are the usual foods in their daily food consumption that bring in the fiber as an intake, and which is imperative for them to balance their food?
You're very right. Sometimes people who are probably in this field would assume that everybody's understood and they know exactly what to do, and frankly, even experts sometimes also forget when they're eating. So what to have. But I think, giving you from a data perspective, right? Like I said, our regulation and our ICMR NI, National Institute of Nutrition, has also given out recommended daily allowances, right? How much fiber somebody should have. So in India, for an adult man, they should at least have 30 grams of fiber per day. It can come from any source they want. And for women, it should be 25 grams per day. And you might be aware that, we had recently done a survey, and we had released a white paper as well, which was about Ashirwad Multigrain Happy Tummy, which is our content-based website. The reason I'm bringing it up is that, there is a question which is called as fiber meter, and where you can put your diet, including things that you're eating about fiber, and then you calculate that whether you are able to reach that markup of 30 or not per day. It was a huge surprise for us when we actually looked at the data. We realized that literally 7 out of 10 people are not able to meet even that bare minimum of 30, which they should eat every day, right? Why is it alarming? It's because that is always assumed that Indian diets are full of fiber. We should never worry about fiber, because as per our things we've been taught traditionally, we should not be into that zone. In fact, we always used to think we might be actually having a lot more. But actually, that's not the truth today. Given the lifestyle, given the changes in the dietary habits, it could also lead to affordability and the kind of accessibility of the foods that you're talking about. So yes, there is a huge gap which is there. And when you say, I think what I would only say to encourage people is to say that all kinds of food that you find in your kitchens, which are actually more staple in nature, something that you can have easily, conveniently, and every day. There's no need to rush for the most exotic, the most expensive, something like that. They're all in the kitchen. It could include something as simple as your vegetables, right? This is something which I think everybody's been told, and we conveniently ignore it because we believe, forget it, it doesn't matter. I'll have a supplement, which is not wrong as well. But, the thing starts at home first, right? So even things as simple as your vegetables, your fruits, which can, like I said, your oranges, apples, berries, carrots, beans, lentils. Then if you talk about flours, you have the benefit of multigrain flours. You have the benefit of whole grain flours. You have all kinds of things which are available, which you should include. Now, I'll also give you one more example. For example, they say, it's very difficult to give it to a kid. Like, I'm a mother myself. I can talk as much as I want today, but I know how difficult it is sometimes to feed your own child. So, simple things which are available. You can have a multi-millet product which is there. You can make pancakes out of it. You can make waffles out of it. You can make a paratha out of it. You can make a dosa out of it. Of course, there's be a little bit of effort that needs to be done, but whatever you believe is a normal, healthy eating pattern which you follow daily, it's best to integrate the fibers into that rather than to look out for some special occasion and a special product and a special thing, because then that habit may not be sustainable. So do it in your staples, do it in your regular vegetables. And yes, if there are particular cases, do reach out to your doctor and your nutritionist who would guide you for maybe some specific kind of a fiber, like we were talking earlier, to be included.
And Dr. Bhavna, we talk a lot about the benefits of fiber and the goodness of food, etc. But, are there some negatives or some side effects or potential risks of increasing fiber intake?
I think, that's a very important question, because I think one thing a lot of people do miss out is while they start on a particular journey, sometimes they don't know when to stop or if they should stop, right? And that's true for a lot of us, right? We pick up a certain supplement or a particular diet or a fad diet for that matter, right? And we would just start it. But we don't know, right? Because we were just looking at maybe one indicator, maybe weight loss. And you just start to do that, right? And then you don't realize that, your gut is getting upset. Because see, everything that you intake or ingest orally will land up into that system. There's no other way. There's not going to go anywhere. So in fact, one of the reasons why a lot of people have these issues these days is actually because of two reasons. One is, of course, they could have some clinical issues. For example, they can have irritable bowel syndrome. They can have inflammatory bowel diseases. They could have had certain surgeries, or they could have had some undiagnosed, or they're not able to manage any kind of allergies or intolerances, right? It could definitely happen because of that. And in those conditions, they really need to restrict, either completely or partially, both the amount of fiber and the type of fiber that needs to be had, right? And that needs to be monitored. There's another case in point where people are trying to pursue a certain particular goal in health, right, through certain specific diets or other places. There as well, you need to map it, because I know while your question is about that, is excess bad? Traditionally, we would have seen if a normal person eats, like our data also showed, 7 out of 10 people are still not able to reach even the bare minimum of 30. So normally people are not exceeding it. That's true, right? And we need to actually encourage the intake of fiber because of its multiple benefits through various sources. However, in certain cases, like we mentioned, either through clinical issues or a particular goal that they're achieving in which it needs to get restricted, that should be monitored. And probably an extra point, but I would also like to say that, people who are trying to follow those fat diets, it could be a keto diet where you're supposed to literally just have a lot of fat, right? And very minimal protein and literally zero carbs. There's no question of fiber coming into your diet. Now, one of the biggest symptoms that actually happens is an upset gut. First thing that happens, right? And people just continue with that diet because they are actually losing weight without realizing the kind of impact it's going to have on their health, in a long term. And the same can go for very, very high protein diets when people try to take it. Your gut is not healthy enough to even ingest, digest, and absorb what you're putting into it. So, we have to respect this system a lot, because if whatever you're eating is not getting absorbed, you're getting no benefit. So I think it's very important to take care of this one.
And are there some people who should be avoiding fibers?
Like I said, the conditions that I was mentioning to you, which is your inflammatory bowel diseases, right? Because these are the people who can have flare-ups. These are the people who can have very, very bad symptoms from their gut if they have high fiber foods. So they definitely need to cut that up. People who have irritable bowel syndromes, these are the ones in which they have issues in fermenting of the fibers in a proper way. So the gut is not able to do that properly. And in that case, they need to really cut or minimize or, manage the amount of fiber that they're taking in. Of course, there is one, if they've had surgery, in that case, they need to monitor that. So yes, those are very serious conditions in which amount of fiber needs to be restricted completely or partially. And that needs to get decided on a one-on-one basis with your doctor or your nutritionist.
And I have a question, Dr. Bhavna, that, a lot of people, like you mentioned, keto diet, it became a fad for some time. And people have been doing intermittent fasting, etc. Do you think, and I'm asking for your personal opinion based on your training, do you think people who want to fast or try any of these diets must get a medical checkup or understanding of their body before they embark on this journey?
Absolutely. This is my personal opinion. Sometimes what happens is, you are not aware of what your body is going through, right? In fact, we always say the clinical symptoms that you see are literally the last ones that appear. Your body's already done changes inside, which is your biochemical parameters, which you only get to know when you've done a, blood sample analysis and, other medical tests. By the time you've not done that, you don't even know what is going in your body. And then suddenly, one day, because of either some form of conversation with a friend who has probably looking a little different and you wanted to aspire to be like them, or you see an influencer, or you've read something and you could understand whatever you could, and you suddenly change it, right? You're not aware what your body is right now, and you suddenly have changed it, right? So if you see a lot of people who go to gym without warm up and without training, always end up hurting themselves. Always, because they want to do the quick way, they don't know how to do it, and they may not take the advice of a trainer. In the food, what happens is, because it's very personal, and you're literally, you can even hide from the world about what you're eating, right? So it's very personal. You make those decisions yourself, and then you quickly change over it. Today, there are also enablers, which can help you to do that. They'll deliver the food at your place without any checks, whether you need it or not. You just decide it. Now, the problem here is you could be having an undiagnosed situation, which you will definitely flare up tomorrow. And my second biggest issue is that, like I always mention, is people know how to start and when to start, but people don't know when to stop unless they land themselves into a trouble, right? And they always, in the end, have a quick fix for other things. Like if you do a particular kind of diet and you see your nails are brittle, and your hair's falling, you will purchase a supplement for hair and nail, and you start eating that. So what you do is you start fixing that also without realizing that why did it happen in the first place. Your body is literally telling you, don't, there is something happening and you're trying to fix that thing. So I think it's important, see, because I would like to reiterate, because undiagnosed, right? Even from our study that we did, we have a huge sample set about the data. There's something called as a DQ, which is digestive quotient. And in that, there were questions not only about the dietary patterns, there were questions about sleep, water, stress, and other places. And, I was just looking at the data and I realized that, and this data set comes out of almost 6 lakh Indians, right? Adult Indians. And it literally showed that 35% of the people are having literally zero or no physical activity out of this subset. 47% of the people are sleeping less than 6 hours, which is very dangerous. Almost 70% of the people are not drinking the amount of water that they should be drinking, which is recommended. Okay, don't have 8 glasses, have at least 6 glasses. They're not even doing that. Almost 75% of the people are actually undergoing through moderate and severe stress. Now imagine, you think, let me just change my food today. All these things which were already happening, which were troubling your body, and you suddenly change your food in a certain manner of completely replacing maybe something which was essential to you, right? If you do a keto diet, you'll remove fiber, right? You'll even remove protein for that matter. Or if you do a high protein diet because you want to make muscles in 3 months, you're just going to have so much protein, which is going to impact your uric acids, right? Levels eventually, and can have kidney ailments. So either it'll flare up an existing undiagnosed condition, or it'll create a new problem. So I think I have very, I can say strong opinion about it. There's no harm in trying what you want to try. But just the way you would listen to ideally you would be listening to a trainer in a gym, doing your warm up and cool down. Even with food, there's no harm in either reading more or go to a source which you believe is credible, and it's a credible source, or find someone you believe in your community through whatever measures, right? And you can believe what they're saying. Just check base with them, and always know when to stop. Otherwise, it's going to be huge trouble.
No, I think it's a very important point, because one, I think people should take expert help whenever they're embarking on something that is to do with their health and where it could impact their physical being. And second is, very important point that actually comes out of this conversation is that don't ignore the signs that your body is showing up. Because that could be, it's a response to whatever change is happening inside you. So that's a very important point. Dr. Bhavna, can you share with us some success stories and examples of how individuals have significantly improved their digestive health by incorporating fiber in their diet? Is there some examples that you have observed in your journey?
Yeah, sure. See, I think I see them on quite a daily basis, I would like to say, through various projects and the works and the conversation we do, right? Because, and how do I have a window to it? I am not a practicing clinician, but like, for example, on our site, which we have as Happy Tummy, and on that we have an Ask an Expert, forum, which is a free forum in which people can have one-on-one personalized conversation with the nutritionist, and they send in their questions, right? And, when you review the window of those conversations and stuff and the kind of questions that get asked, you actually can see the differences in people's life. For example, there are people, like I said, first of all, people not even aware, are they deficient? They don't know. So I think the step one is always to make them aware that, are you good? Are you eating enough? Are you not eating enough? Right? So one, helping them to first even understand the fact that they are, eating enough fiber or not is literally sometimes 50% of the solving of a problem. Because sometimes when people, get to know, oh, I'm supposed to eat 30 grams per day, I'm just having 15 or probably much lesser than that. I know how to do it. I just did not know I was eating less sometimes, right? It happens to a lot of us. So that's step number one, enabling them to understand that they're deficient. Second, once they have understood that part, then helping them to see that, how to integrate more fiber into their daily diversified balanced diet in a way which is sustainable. Like I said, there is no quick fix to this thing. it needs to happen in a sustainable manner. And I always go back and reiterate, have your multigrains, make your chapatis, your rotis out of those products, or, choose wisely to have natural integration of fiber. Have your fruits, your vegetables with skin wherever possible, as much as possible. Have your seeds, which you have, whether it's flax or chia, whichever you do. Do it in a way which is sustainable. Third, once you've started doing that, there are so many apps which are available today, which can help you, and they're all free. A lot of them are free. They will actually help you to also figure out that, okay, now you started reaching your mark, about 30, which is for men, 30 grams per day, and 25 grams per day for women. And I've actually seen those people, when they started taking this journey, they actually were able to also get rid of, the daily issues of the gut. Today you are bloated. Today you have a little bit of acidity. Today you have a little bit of this. They were actually able to solve it with bare minimum efforts, just by getting knowledge and then empowering themselves to make those meaningful decisions at home with their simple diet, nothing fancy. So I've seen those people. In fact, one of the biggest examples we always see is that, when somebody's not well and they're put on antibiotics, you would always see them, their gut health goes for a toss, right? And that's when they have to recover back. And the first step into that journey of recovery is always about including, good fibers along with probiotics, because then it can help get the balance of the good and the bad bacteria back. And that's a very common example I think we all have seen in our own homes. And I think the last one is about, as a mother, I would say, the fact that, every mother is concerned about the daily bowel movements of their child, right? Which is a very simple indicator today, right? Which everybody can focus on. Of course, as people grow up, we completely forget about that, how powerful this tool is to tell you, right? And that's where you need to enable intake of more fiber, and then the frequency of your bowel movement and the way it needs to be. That's the very good, simple prime indicator to tell you that, are you fine? Is your gut health okay? Or do you need to do something about it? So regularity, is something as a very simple indicator. So that's something which we can do. So yes, I've seen many cases, people, when they focus on something and they can actually solve it in a very simple manner.
So does it also help, the small children, the kids, they have a challenge of constipation. I've seen that coming on a lot of it. So does fiber intake help getting over the constipation, or does it actually increase it?
No, so like I said, I think the right way to answer that is assuming they are not having those underlying or undiagnosed issues, like we talked about, earlier, any kind of allergies that they might have, celiac or gluten intolerances or lactose intolerances. If they don't have those, then and if they're apparently healthy children, then yes, intake of fiber will definitely help them getting onto the regularity of it. If I just give you a simple thing that even everybody eats, assuming everybody eats roti, or you can do equivalence of any cereal for that matter, that, just to give you a perspective from my profile, my portfolio that I do handle, is like that Ashwad multigrain product that we have. 3 rotis of it will actually give you 35% of RDA for your daily thing. So for example, and then you start adding other good things along with it, your vegetables, your fruits and everything, you will reach that RDA that you need to do. And then it will also help regularity and many other things, because like I said, while we're eating a particular thing, it may also give you the benefit of the other fiber, which you were not even aiming for, like soluble and insoluble, both will come together. So one will help with regularity of the bowel movements and help reduce the issues of constipation. The other component, which you weren't probably aiming for, but is actually good for you, will also come naturally. So I think choosing the right products, the right food, the right ingredients for children is the key to it.
So, Dr. Bhavna, that brings me to my next question. How do you choose the right products? Because, do you think that the information being printed on the packing of the food that we are buying today is misleading, or is it correct?
Okay. You've used a very appropriate word, misleading. See, I think working very closely and integrated with the regulatory scenario as well. Like I said earlier before, for all packaged food products, all responsible, though I'll use the word responsible and ethical, right? Beyond which there's no control. So all responsible and ethical organizations know exactly when to write the word it contains fiber or has goodness of fiber or is rich in fiber, power of fiber. And then, of course, going into much more details and layers of it, goodness of beta glucan or other things like that, right? Or goodness of multigrain. They all know there is a very strict regulatory framework, which is also available, which gives you a very, very clear guidelines, which is given by FSSAI, right? Both for even simple claims like source of fiber, which I said, 3 gram per 100 gram, or even things which you like to make as a claim, which we call as DRRs, disease risk reduction claims, which actually are already given by FSSAI now to say that if you have this much amount of beta glucan, only then you can write this line. Even that line is given. So all ethical organizations are aware of it. So ideally, I would like to believe that they would not mislead the consumers, right? And so this is one part, because that 90% belongs to the people who are aware. So the responsibility lies on them first, right? So being part of this ecosystem, I need to personally and with my organization make sure that whatever is going on pack is backed by science and it's credible. So this is biggest of the things. Yes, of course, on the different kind of packs, given the size limitation or the kind of font limitation, and even the fact that people are not able to read, either they're not interested or they're not able to decipher the information, right? It can get missed very easily, right? So yes, second part is about educating them, even the fact that we can tell them to just read the label and buy it from a source that you trust. And if the word fiber is written, and if you believe in the ethical presence of that organization, you should be okay, right? That is a simplest way to work. Because like I said, 90% of the responsibility is for the person who's manufacturing it. They should know, right? Because they're the experts. They're supposed to be the experts. They can't rely on the knowledge of the common person sometimes, because like that. Second part is on education and empowering them. It is very important because after all, it is our duty collectively, as this part of this ecosystem, to give them credible sources. You can come here, you can read here, like as part of our journey, it has been our endeavor, like through Happy Tummy. It's basically a content platform, right? Where you can come, you can test free. Are you getting your fiber intake daily or not? What kind of fibers you can have. You have blogs, almost like 300 articles, per year. You can take your measurement, the DQ test, which I was telling you about, which is your digestive quotient. You can get free meal plans. You can have a free online consultation to talk about it. Education platforms, which can have credible content, can be a very powerful tool for people, to come and in a simple way, understand that what is happening, are they okay in terms of their intake of fiber, and how they can make it better. So it's a joint responsibility for all of us, and I think we'll need to keep doing it. So that's my submission on this.
So, Dr. Bhavna, do you think that the Indian regulators need to, are they at par with what is happening in the regulations for food globally, or there is some changes that you think could help people live healthier with the correct information being presented? It's not just the ingredients, it's also the naming of the product per se. For example, when we were talking of the whole wheat, I mean, what can be termed as whole wheat itself, that connotation needs to change. What is your opinion on this?
See, I think our Indian regulators today are doing a fantastic job. I would actually say that, right? Because I think today we are literally at par or probably a little better than a lot of conversations which are happening, and elsewhere. And of course, there's always room to grow and learn. I mean, because like I said, science is evolving, the technical methods are evolving. In fact, the biggest reason for fiber conversation to become more scientific has not happened because of consumers. It has not happened because of doctors. It has not happened because of nutritionists. It has happened because of improvement in analytical methods to understand fiber and just to classify it. Before that, we had no clue what we are talking about. So the credit goes to those people who were in analytical chemistry, and they were able to design a technique by which you can identify, classify, and then name a fiber. And that's when the journey started. So I think, I think those conversations are still going on, and there's always room to learn. I think my input would be only on one thing here, that the more the data is available, which is belonging to a particular group of population, like if you're talking about Indians, the data, the regulation, the conversation should happen basis science, which belongs and has come out of Indian data sets and population. I'm not saying the other ones are wrong. We can always do a bridging study, right? There's a data at some other country and there's data between India, and then you can do a bridging study. But we have to remember, see, because we're talking about digestive health, I think it's a scientific fact we all know that the gut microflora, which is in a person who's overweight or obese, is very different from the gut microflora of a person who's normal BMI. The gut microflora of a pregnant woman is very different from the gut microflora of a woman who's not pregnant, right? The fact that it changes in the same person so fast. Now imagine using a data set which belongs to a very different country with very different dietary habits, very different kind of other aspects, like we were talking about, sleep, stress, water, many other things, right? Now, using that data sets and making regulation would be a very dangerous or probably a non-scientific way to do it. So I think, yes, keep working on the data sets, which are coming out from the specific country or the specific population, so that any kind of product manufacturing in any domain, whether it's medicine, food, nutraceutical, whatever it is, any kind of knowledge which is coming out of that place can then be a trustworthy source and can be implemented into then various policy makings, regulation makings. So it's a task that needs to be done by scientists, regulators, food manufacturers, drug manufacturers together. So I think that's how I would see it.
So Dr. Bhavna, my last question to you is stemming out of, actually, that was my last question that I'd asked you, but your answer, has triggered this thought in my head that when you're talking of, different gut health for different people, different conditions, do you think the genetic makeup of a certain population is also different and requires a different, data sets stemming out and helping you identify the correct intake of fiber for that set of population? For example, when we compare Indians to Westerners, do you think our requirement could be very different from what we see in the Western part of the world?
I think what you just said would probably need a day for discussion, because I think what's been happening, at least in the last 2 decades, there have been 2 things that have happened significantly in the world of science, right? One is the whole gut-brain axis. You must have heard of it, right? It's been going on. That gut is the second brain. Literally, in fact, every decision that is made is actually made in the gut. We just give the credit to the brain like that, because that's the power of the gut or the digestive system we are talking about. The other thing is, of course, that I think it happened in 1990s, around that time, when the whole genomic study that happened, which showed that, how many different kind of genes and other things, how different we are from each other, which was actually the reason why this whole personalized nutrition came into being, right? Everybody started using that data set, although it was not fully done, fully complete, right? In a way, it couldn't come down to the layers that it should have or could have for multiple reasons. But that started that whole journey of personalized nutrition, which people just have taken everywhere now, and have turned it into mass personalization. It's not one-on-one anymore. You have one product, you just sell it in a way that it looks like personalized. However, from a science perspective, yes, there are certain places where maybe a more generic approach can be taken up, because, we may not be very different on certain places. However, there are certain areas of health, like the gut health, which is actually specific. I mean, forget about a continent or a country. Even for an individual, when they travel from one country to another country, the way their gut reacts and changes to the new food is the biggest indicator, right? That your gut is not ready for that. In fact, the fact that, anybody who comes to India is always warned of not to drink water from the tap. There is a reason for that, right? Because they're not adjusted to that. So the fact that it is so personal. So that is why it needs to be taken at that level of science understanding. See, another thing is that what has happened, at least in the area of gut health, is that a lot of people have also normalized it. it's okay, to have bloating sometimes. I'll take a fix. It's okay to have some kind of acidity. I'll take a fix. Oh, because probably I ate something here, or it probably happened because I didn't sleep properly, or I was stressed. All these things, imagine, have such a deep impact on your gut that your microflora would actually change, right? So that's the power of those millions and billions of bacteria that we have. And we need to protect them at all cost. And we need to make sure that, again, I'm reiterating, sorry, but the data, the science, the regulation should try to come as close as possible to the population you're talking about. Wherever possible, use personalized nutrition as a means. Use it in a way that you're aware, right? So you can make those decisions easily for yourself. And also then not land yourself into a situation where you would always need a fix to solve this, because trust me, those fixes are not going to help. They're also very, very short term. So it's better to protect your gut much early on when you can, through simple things like adding fiber, through simple things like your staple vegetables, fruits, right? Sleeping, try to take less stress, maybe not possible in today's scenario. Drink water. They sound very boring as advice, right? Very boring. And everybody's switching, tell me something new. Yeah, this I know. But they're actually not following it. And maybe that is the reason why we still land up with the statistics, which we are not proud of, to say that, 7 out of 10 people are not able to meet their bare minimum requirements of fiber or other things. So something to think about for all of us.
Absolutely. So, just knowing is not enough, but to accept and not be in denial will actually prompt you or trigger the action that you need to take. And you know what, Dr. Bhavna, it has been such a pleasure speaking to you, because, you're one trained in nutrition and life sciences, and you have experience in the communications and creating consumer awareness, which actually makes you the right person to talk about what is it that we need to do to not only share the good information, but also the correct information that can actually enable people to have the credible information for them to make intelligent choices which will impact their life. So thank you so much for having this conversation with us. It's such a pleasure to have you with us on BW Wellbeing World.
Incredibly lucky to be able to share some of my thoughts, and hoping it'll help some people. And very kind of you for these wonderful words, dear Harbinderji. So yes, thanks a lot.